Hi, Sabine. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Elisha, and thank you very much for having me.
Beautiful. And thank you for coming. It means a whole lot. Okay. I am quite excited to have Sabine on the show for some reasons, alright? Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking, because I believe in order to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful one now, it takes the application of knowledge, quality information. Okay, the second reason why I'm excited to have you on the show, Sabine, is for the sake of my audience, the ones who are going to be listening to our conversation. I trust that there are some things that you know that some of my audience needs to hear you say this stuff, Sabine, directly from your mouth in order for them to experience transformation. I firmly believe that. And thirdly, that is me. You know, I am convinced that I'm definitely going to learn one or two things from your insights, your experiences, and your story. So, for that reason, Sabine, let us get started with your introduction and talk to us about your journey, how you got here, how the journey has been so far. And afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Sabine, over to you.
Yes, hi everyone. Yes, Sabine VanderLinden. I'm known in my industry as Sabine VDL as well. I've been in industry now for 30 years, and when I talk about industry, is I am in finance, and I tend to work with big, large corporations, insurance companies. Where did that start? I'm French, so I left France when I was 18 and moved to the UK to actually do my studies. That's where I did advanced study. I did my MBA. I work for large corporations as well. And I ended up specializing in strategy. So I work for the like of IBM, PwC, where I actually learned a lot of my craft, right? The baseline methods and approaches I use every day around how businesses create value, how they destroy value, how they actually interact with others, how to build strategy from the ground, how to shape what we call operating model. So how to define how operational components work together and how to build business models. So how to build a business which actually make revenue, but also does that in a profitable manner. So after doing a lot of strategy, I decided to specialize in technology. So I top technology as well in this world. And approximately, I would say 8 to 10 years ago, I decided to leave big corporates to actually work with young ventures. And it's why I'm very much renowned as a strategist, executive move entrepreneur, where I actually build very well-known acceleration programs to enable startups, scale up to work with big corporates, but also enable corporates to learn to industrialize and democratize the way they work with young ventures. So all this required, a very fine-tuned process about people for sure, but it's also about structure and really refined processes, which can be replicated over and over again to enable those big companies to actually feel comfortable working with young ventures. So I've done that now for 8 to 10 years. And just before COVID, instead of doing it within, other people's business, I developed my own business called the Alchemy Crew, The Crew. And so Alchemy Crew is very much about building venture environment, venture labs, which is now we're known as venture clienting, allowing corporates to work with startups in a much more industrialized way. And also, so that is a collaboration model, partnership model, but also working with young ventures and investors to actually find where pocket of investment could be realized for those ventures which want to scale and grow their business. So that is me, in short, a little bit of an introduction.
Listening to you speak, Sabine, it is very evident that you're passionate about what you do. And that passion is very, very important. And your journey is that of a very interesting one. getting to seek out knowledge in order to solve problems. That's a beautiful word. So, shall we get started with the questions? Okay.
So the question is around passion.
No, no, no.
Um,
I mean, can I start to ask you the questions I have now?
yeah, go for it.
Okay, all right. So, there are these three sectors: the finance and healthcare and insurance. Can you talk to us about the top trends, affecting these three sectors?
Yeah, I mean, when you start looking at finance, within finance, you would have insurance and you also have, in some ways, health. So when we start looking at development in finance, we look at development in insurance, we look at development in healthcare. So for me, they are not mutually exclusive, but they have interesting overlapping patterns, which could help identify where the market is going. So patterns is I've seen, over the past years, high interest rate, high inflation. So the cost of capital has gone very high. And so finding funding and investment from venture capitalists has not been as easy as expected for growth ventures. So people will be in fintech and insurance technology, for instance, and startups wanting to get funding from financial services institutions have struggled a little bit over the past 2 years, because of the uncertainty. And but I think we are coming out of it, and next year hopefully will be a much better year. So when you start looking at fintech and financial services institution, there is probably today 152,000 fintech startups, and probably 25-30% of 152,000 startups have raised funding from investors, which is around $835 billion to date. Last year has been a very bad year, and this year is not as good as it was in 2021, but it's getting better. So one of the big trends is we are seeing difficulties to fundraise. We are seeing probably less ventures coming to market, but there are still opportunity emerging. And as we all know, with the advent of artificial intelligence, a startup needs to make sure that if it develops the platform, the solution to market, it has to look into artificial intelligence, because that is expected today from any platforms being developed that needs to raise funding and which is going to solve problems for a specific customer segment. Another big trend which has affected Europe, and there's a number of regulation, is sustainability. I think because of climate change, we are seeing more and more companies trying to work out what is going to be their sustainability strategy and climate resilience strategies. We've moved from El Nino to La Nina right now. And so we see a massive change in weather patterns. I was just in Italy last month, right? We're in September, so last month. And we had massive heats of 35, 38 degrees Celsius. But at the same time, 2 weeks ago, we had rains and the temperature dropped to 26 degrees. So there is no really understanding of where the weather is going in summers, winters, and vice versa. I'm back in London right now, and it's already feels quite wintry. So climate change is affecting us. We need to build climate resilience. Hot places are going to get hotter. Cold places will get colder. Mountains may not have as much snow as they used to have years past. And so corporations are looking for solution to solve for climate. So what does it mean is they're looking at better data source to prevent activities to happen. They are looking at better algorithmic underwriting, so algorithmic models to actually help them price a risk better, so whether it's finance or insurance. And so we are seeing, patterns around the fact that we have a problem, which is climate change, which needs climate resilience, and therefore we need to actually embrace more collaboration between big organizations. We need to solve the problem, and smaller organizations which have solutions that can solve those problems. So a lot of solutions are in data. A lot of solutions will be around the Internet of Things, around the sensors. A lot of solutions are going to be around algorithmic platforms able to predict, prevent, forecast when a risk is going to happen. So a big theme around sustainability as well. Then we mentioned healthcare. You mentioned health. And so with the fact that we have artificial intelligence and now generative AI, we are going to probably be able to predict likelihood of people getting sick much quicker. We may actually be able to identify areas of focus for drugs. And that is where technology can be used for good. What we see is going to be a lot of change in healthcare, where health is going to be looking at us individuals, where we have to be more fit, and we are going to see more marketing campaigns and requirements around wellness and fitness. And then the technology allows us to be a little bit more preventative. So by being able to really understand humans behavior, understand when they are going to be sick, how we can help them not to be sick, and using the data maybe from our mobile device, our little phones or watches, we can then start identifying again where there is opportunity to predict and prevent risk of death or risk of sickness to happen. So now we have another patterns around technology enabling healthcare to become much more preventative as well. But there are many other strands, right? As we are also starting working remotely, everybody's working from home nowadays, or working from a remote location. We need to make sure our devices, endpoints are safe and secured. And so one thing we just need to be mindful of is, as we see more people working remotely, we are going to see more risk of cyber risk. Same, it's also going to occur with the fact that we are using more generative AI technology. We are going to see more hacking. We are going to see more ransomware coming through companies, and therefore a need for cybersecurity to take place as well. So big development as well in the cyber space, I think, in the next years to come.
Beautiful, Sabine. Very, very educating. That was a great one. Well explained. I love that. You mentioned cybersecurity. Okay, so that's going to lead to the next question now. Why must small businesses prepare for cybercrime?
Well, small businesses are often not always well educated, I would say, but well prepared for the risk of cyber. And so I think young businesses, small businesses, we may have actually employees which are less educated around the risk of cyber, are more likely to be at risk of being targeted by cyber criminal, by hackers. So what we often see is the first risk of cyber criminal. When a cyber criminal comes into an organization, they will target employees. And so the first risk of cyber is an employee clicking on an email. So often young businesses think it won't happen to them, but actually often it is the first companies that hackers will actually target, because they are not protected very well. They don't have often thought about either building their businesses on the right technology, right? Google, AWS, Amazon, Microsoft, where despite having the technology sitting on the cloud, they also make sure that their technology is cyber-proofed. Often young businesses do not think about that. And so as a result, they are the first one cyber, hackers will go after, and employees, because the more likely risk of cyber comes from errors from employees. So hackers will target employees with phishing emails, for instance, to enter the organization and either affect the systems or ask for ransom by actually taking customer data. So I would say education around cyber is not just for big organizations. It has to be also for young businesses, and particularly young businesses which do not always have a lot of resources or high revenue can actually end up having to pay large claims or ransomware. And so they are the one which probably needs to be protected the most at the earliest stage as possible.
Wow, I got that. So to bring this to an end, Sabine, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those ones who would like to reach out to you, learn more about what you do, maybe you said some things that resonated well with them and they would like to learn more, how can that be possible?
So takeaways, I think if your audience is small businesses, remember there are amazing opportunities out there for any organization, big or small. Being aware of the trends affecting industry is very important. At the macro level, for sure, we talk about sustainability. We talked about the change happening because of financial patterns and therefore driving uncertainty. But there is great opportunity when you think about cyber risk, right? Therefore, we need more cyber solution, and we need more, I would say, tech for good type artificial intelligence platforms coming to market. So really understanding that it's not just about developing businesses and solutions. It's about developing business and solutions that are improving society and improving the environment. So being purposeful today is going to be really critical. Now, I want to go back to artificial intelligence. A lot of companies are trying to build solutions now which are ethical, responsible, but also trustworthy. And the reason why they are focusing on those pillars is because if they can actually embed artificial intelligence in their solutions and make sure that they meet the requirement of ethicality, trustworthiness, and responsibility, customers will trust them, and through that transparency, will do business with them. So I would say there are opportunity for everybody out there. And so it's just being observant, really understanding that building a business or solutions is about first the customer. And so really having good purposeful values will hopefully help young entrepreneurs to build for the future, build for good. Now, what do I do? I have a different part of my business. I work, as I said, with big corporations, helping them collaborate with startups. Usually they set the agenda, they set the mandate. They say, okay, we want to solve for climate resilience, Sabine. And so my team and I will go and look for ventures all around the globe, which can solve for climate resilience. But often those companies are sitting in different markets. They may be sitting in Europe, they may be sitting in US, they may be sitting in Asia. And the key is they are looking for companies which can work in those markets. So it's not about looking for any and every solution. It's about looking for solutions which can actually result into a commercial relationship. So therefore, what I call venture clienting earlier, which is about a corporate working with ventures to solve a problem they can't solve themselves. So that is one part. And the other part is we work also with young ventures who may want to learn how to collaborate with corporates. So we build programs for those, or we do help them sometime fundraise. We are very peculiar when we look for startups for fundraising because it's like a sales process, right? The startups need to understand that fundraising is a serious process as a sales process, and understanding investors and being aligned to the investor thesis is going to be really important for success. So where can people find me? I'm on LinkedIn. I work in B2B, business to business. So I tend to work with business. We want to work with big businesses. So I can be found on LinkedIn. It's my main channel for sure. On Twitter, X is another channel. I also have my podcast, Alicia. I have my podcast called Scouting for Growth. It's a top 50 in the UK, top 200 in the United States. So it's doing well. And so that would be my recommendation. Hop on Scouting for Growth. You get a lot of advice from investors, from corporates, and from other startups who have scaled business to large scale.
Beautiful. I love that. You've impacted me and the audience soon with so many insightful words. I tell you, valuable informations. Thank you so very much, Sabine. So that's going to be the end of the show. Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing all of these thoughts with us. It means a whole lot. Thank you.
My pleasure. Well, I hope your audience